Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I want to take a moment today and talk a little bit about what's been happening the last couple of days with these felony charges now, or not charges, but convictions against former president or president, depends on where you are on this, Donald Trump. You know, I'm going to have to say this off the cuff that I never did vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. Um, Not to say, though, that I don't support him at this moment, and that I probably have been supporting him for the last couple of years when I saw a great change take place in his life. And see, I had an opportunity, it's a small story, but when I was an executive, to rub some elbows with Mr. Trump. It wasn't much, but I got to be in the same room with him. And not a big room either. And, I saw his arrogance, I saw the way he was, and I saw the way he was even with the beautiful women that were there. He loves to flirt, he loves women, that's for sure. But this whole case, the way it took place, and whether we like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump, is a complete violation of our due process and of our constitutional rights. Is an example of the invasion that's taking place at the border, and I can't ignore that any longer. It's so excessive now, and so many different dangerous people are coming across the border now every day that I can't just keep quiet about this stuff anymore. Not here on this channel, and I know we've talked about it, but I'm talking about even in my ward and so forth, and just expressing at the appropriate times, obviously, the concern I have. We can have faith, that's great. But remember something, that Moroni still, even in the Book of Mormon, talked about how Moroni, if we could just be like him, the Satan's power would have been bound, right? Or would be bound. And he was a man that went out to battle. He actually, and if you will, a pre-battle, right? A battle to eliminate a battle. He took the battle away from the home as the Lamanites were marching towards him. He cut them off. And he didn't wait to be attacked. And so, my point being in this is that you can go two ways with this. One, showing that we need to stand to defend ourselves. We can't just sit back and wait for the attack to come to us. Brigham Young also clarified this in the Journal of Discourses of Brigham Young, that if he was explaining to the saints at the time that if they thought they just could make peace and turn over their weapons, that or even turn the weapons over to the natives in the area, and if you thought that the Lord would just come in and protect them, he said that was a great mistake to think that, because the Lord helps us after all we can do ourselves. And there's an example of that in the city of Limhi, when Limhi and his people tried to escape the captivity of the Lamanites, and before that happened, they were attacked, and they were just being slaughtered. They were just being a peaceful people, and they were just being slaughtered until they ran back behind walls of fortress, back where King Limhi was. They got their weapons. He weaponized them, and just whatever they could. I mean, just like farm weaponry, and then went out and then basically annihilated a military force. Right? These farmers that had no real training at all in weaponry just got those weapons and went out, and then the Lord helped them. They put their lives on the line. They made that risk. They took the risk first. Then the Lord protected them and helped them. And I think that's something we're missing right now in all of this, and in our conference talks and so forth. It's not quite there. Yesterday I had a great conversation with my former stake president, really great man, native man. His hair is down long, and it's just really, really neat guy, and he really gets the spirit. Young first stake president. I think he just turned, he's 39, I think now, and he's almost finishing his presidency. He's in his eighth year. Had a really good relationship with him. And he called me yesterday because he had a lunch with Elder Rasbin yesterday, along with the president of the Quorum of the 70 and I think the 70 in the area there at the time now. And they came and just took him out to lunch, he and his wife, and he called me up and told me what experience it was. And And he said, I asked Elder Rasman this question. I said, what can I do for the saints of my stake? What is the most important thing I can do for them right now? He said, bring them back to Christ. In other words, strengthen their faith and bring them back to Christ. And my comment was that to him, I said, well, that's good. And I think that's a very important principle. And this channel is in that too, right? Come back to Christ. And I said, but President, I just am a little bit disturbed in the fact that that's all we think we need to do. And that it causes this division and that we have no real direction. It's too simple, right? I mean, yeah, I know that, okay, we're looking, right, going back to Moses, but we just look at the serpent. Yeah, I understand that part. I get that part. But when we come back to Christ, though, it isn't that we just stay there, right? I said we need to progress, and we're lowering that standard now. We're like, well, it's almost like we're not preaching exaltation anymore. We're just trying to preach lower kingdoms, right? We're just trying to bring in people from lower kingdoms. So what's that kind of membership does that bring us in the future? I know that, for example, the new converts we have in our ward now, I talk about food storage and self-reliance, and I'm preaching this, and I'm adamant about this a commandment, and they're just looking at me like, you are exaggerated. That's not what the prophet's telling us. They're not telling us to do that. And because they're not telling us to do it, we don't have to do that. You see, and that's concern I have there now. That being said, I understand that many are losing their faith. And that this generation is probably the least Christ-like. This is why we're seeing the invasion of our nation. Remember, first chapter, second Nephi, go read it for yourself. The promise of this land is that as long as we kept basically our covenant, right? We remembered our God and our Lord, that we'd be protected from other nations. If not, we'd be overrun by other nations, and they would take our inheritance. And that's what you're seeing happen right now. Now, I'm not going to beat on that. What I want to try to get to is this. The stake president said to me, Eric, here's the answer. And I've been teaching this in the stake, and I'm having success with it. Now, I couldn't figure out how to get the people motivated, but you're absolutely right. The membership right now is very complacent. New members coming in have no real idea. We teach this stuff in this forum. It's like another language to them. So what I'm teaching them are the covenants you make. There's 4 covenants you make. And going in with being the final covenant, being your sealing in the temple. He said, we normally take that first covenant of baptism, and we understand that. We get that. We run with that. But that's it. The next 3 covenants we make, and he went in and elaborated on each one of them a little bit. But for the sake of this video, he says the next 3 covenants we make is we don't put as much focus on that covenant anymore. And we need to put more focus on what that covenant means. And if we understand those covenants, in itself, those covenants are talking about gaining knowledge, gaining understanding, and being self-sufficient. That encompasses those covenants. He says, like the law of consecration, for example. That's part of all those covenants. So that law of consecration is all about being responsible, is being industrious, and at the same time, the law of consecration is all about one being self-reliant. So, where am I going with this? What we're seeing take place in our nation yesterday, was a sad day of affairs, because this is what's going to happen now. Now you're going to start seeing people judge people for their political affiliation, red or blue. I hate to say this, but where I'm at, I have to do that. I have to know who I'm going to be around, if I'm going to go into a safe environment or not. I have to know that when I'm working on jobs, what I'm going to have to put up with, what I can say, what I cannot say. It's sad. It's not the America I left 20 years ago. And too bad I left, because I blew my responsibility to be here and to build up this country. I saw it coming, that's why I left. So I'm just as guilty as I can say my parents or even my grandparents for not standing up earlier. How do we stand up? Well, we got to lift our voices. This little channel of ours is little, but it's something. And so help us, get the no thumbs down if you don't like it. Fine, say thumbs down, but give it a thumbs up. And subscribe below. Like and subscribe, please. We need to get all this out. We just want to talk things about people and with people. Let people know there's hope out there still. Zion's forming. Those red states are forming. Brigham has said it would be the filter would be the Constitution. Members and no members alike, though, will form the 10th of Zion. Not the stakes of Zion, but the 10th of Zion. So that's something we really need to jump into and understand as well. Anyway, so creative conviction. What took place in Trump to finalize here yesterday was unjust. You have a Colombian judge. It's going to happen too. You get all these immigrants going to come in. They're going to bring their tradition down to being paid off. That's what they're used to. That's the kind of stuff. This guy, I'm sure, was a good guy. He became a judge, but his bloodline, his culture is being paid off. That's how they make their big money. So his mindset, his worldview is very different and will not change to adopt to our worldview. Very few will. And this is the problem with this mass immigration coming right now. And if Donald Trump, honestly, is not the person who takes the helm and we continue this 4 more years, you better be focusing on self-reliance and independence and get out of the city. That's all I have to say. Creative Conviction. See you next video.